Laguna Seca Raceway is yet another of the fabulous tracks born out of the explosion of literal road racing in the 40s and 50s. In the early 50s, the Pebble Beach road races were a major draw, but the dangers quickly outpaced the public roads of the Del Monte Forest. So in 1957, a beautiful new permanent road racing track was built on a part of the U.S. Army's old Fort Ord. And the first race that November was won by Pete Lovely driving a Ferrari. Since then, many of the sport's most legendary competitors have raced there, resulting in sections of the track carrying names like Andretti Hairpin, Rahal Straight, and Rainy Curve. But none of those compare to Laguna's most famous hallmark of legend and lore, the iconic corkscrew, so named because it twists back on itself and loses 5 stories of elevation in less than 500 feet of track. Tonight, this wonderful venue makes its debut in the Full Send Sims Esports iRacing Spec Miata Championship for the 4th round of 2024's Season 3. Welcome to the fabulous Monterey Peninsula and WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Hi everybody, I'm Greg Creamer along with Kyle Heyer. And Kyle, I'll tell you, the thing about this track is it is fast, it is wickedly demanding, and it's short. It comes at you in a hurry.
It all happens so fast. About 2.2 miles around here in 11 turns. And Greg, you mentioned that all the elevation change. Most of that happens in the corkscrew, but there's some other really high commitment corners. Rainy Curve, turn 10. How about turn 6, the run up to the corkscrew? The laps I had around here, the corkscrew was only the 3rd best corner around this place. You have a lot of fun everywhere around this racetrack.
Well, you brought it up. Turn 6 to me is the best turn on this track. The corkscrew's a legendary corner, right? But it isn't particularly fast. It isn't, that huge of a challenge other than just the massive drop in elevation. It's tricky, but it's not that intense. Turn 6 is you're climbing up out of turn 5, and from 5 all the way to the corkscrew, it's uphill. If you get 6 wrong, you're in real trouble in terms of your lap. And turn 6, while every other corner here, save perhaps turn 11, but even that has a rhythm to it. Turn 6, it's just this sudden angular corner with a big depression right at the apex that just compresses your suspension. If you get it wrong there, you're off the outside and you are struggling all the way up the hill into the corkscrew, which, by the way, is a great overtaking area. You mess up turn 6 and you're a sitting duck there, kind of like that.
Yeah, corkscrew is a big drop, too. We'll talk about that all night long. But this racetrack, we've got about 8 minutes left in qualifying. We'll cover that here shortly. This racetrack didn't always used to look like this, Greg. So why don't we take a look at the track map here and tell us a little bit about the course as a whole and more about those specific corners you were just mentioning.
Yeah, well, as you can see, it used to be essentially like a high-speed oval with just a couple of tight corners. Where turn 1 and then turn 2, where the Andretti hairpin now exists, it just went straight on. And all the way from 2 to 3, you were basically up at, right up against almost a cliff embankment. So it was dangerous and it was stupid fast. So they created this infield section, added the Andretti hairpins, 3, 4, and then turn 5 back onto the old track, that very tricky turn 6. Then the corkscrew, the 9 Rainy Curve, 10 high-speed bank turn, and then down into 11. But one of the big things about the change in the track, Kyle, it took it from 1.9 miles in length to about 2.25 miles in length. And that was really important on another level because both the FIA and the FIM, which is the world sanctioning body for motorcycle racing, said the track was too short to hold international level events. And the minute they made that extension up there, this track became the home of the MotoGP, then just the World Motorcycle Championship 500 class U.S. Grand Prix. And as a result, it now, especially in the world of motorcycle racing, is an incredibly fabled and respected track. But the other part of it is we watch these cars coming out during qualifying. Currently, Morgan Burkhardt out in front. The other part of it is you see, because of the motorcycle racing, Kyle, how low those curbs are. They're, you get on them and there's that little bit of vibration, but there's no real elevation. So it's so easy to drop a tire if you're in a car. What does that do? It's sand. Desert sand every way around this track. It pulls it up, so the grip quotient on these corners can literally change from lap to lap. It keeps your attention.
You can see here, and iRacing does model this, all the dirt and dust and things that end up on the course, and you can see how it's missing from the racing line because drivers have already picked it up. Same is true here on the outside of turn 6. That dirt that's on the outside there is not textured on. That is real dirt here in iRacing that's been pushed and shoved around, and we'll see that shift and shuffle tonight, especially after places like the corkscrew. Look at that big mess right at the apex of the downhill, and that will reduce your grip. So that's something that drivers will have to keep their eyes on. But qualifying is underway. It's points leader Morgan Burkhardt on top, Camden Hibbett in second. No surprise there. Jordan Rick Segrini runs third, and he had a nice weekend at Toyota GR Cup North America at Barber last weekend. Got himself, I think it was a top 5 in race 2 and a top 15 in race number 1. So he's back in the MX-5 tonight.
And I'm sure loving every minute of it, but those Toyota races he's doing are obviously huge fun. As you can see, Rice Puto just running wide, getting out everybody's way into the Andretti hairpin, punching the reset button. There's Olivier Piatek, who really needs to sort of right his path just a little bit. He has been really, really fast. We always know that. It's not a big surprise. However, he has had a couple of really off races. And he said, I just need to really put them together. And the other guy, Kyle, that's suffering sort of the same scenario here is former champion Nicholas Rice Puto. The guy has been really quick. He even has a couple of poles and stuff, but he just hasn't been able to put together the results. So he's way, way down the order for where we know he should be, sitting in 13th right now. That's just, he's so out of place. Yeah,
we've noted that he's out of place, and that might be dangerous for everybody else because when he gets back in place, he's going to mess up what has been a pretty tidy run for Morgan Burkhardt so far in the first handful of rounds. We're in round 4 now with 3 down and many to go. So there's still plenty of time for him to turn things around, but with how good Morgan Burkhardt, Camden Hibbett are, guys like Joshua Soto have had a pretty good season so far. Skip Rock Jr. trying to keep things headed in the right direction. It's hard to win these championships. So, yeah, you can have a couple off rounds here and there, but you got to get back up on the horse.
Yeah, you really do. And obviously, you can drop a few, but if you have enough bad ones, you really start to struggle here. And then let's not forget our most recent podium finisher, the young one, Andrew Gilliland, finishing on the podium at Willow Springs. And there he is, showing some really good form in the early part of the season. A big step for him, I think, in the last couple of seasons here of 2024. He's really found it.
He was so excited last week after getting up on the podium, and he had a good run in the first race of the night too, so he really had some momentum. So maybe the West Coast swing is going to be good for Andrew Gilliland, although he's running out of time to get laps in here. He's on lap 8 and has yet to set a clean lap, so running out of time. Preston Pardis has joined us again in his number 42 Mazda, and Celine Roland is back here, as well as Sally Mott, who is also a real-world competitor.
I was just going to say, I'm looking forward to seeing what Sally can do, because she made one appearance with us last season and was immediately impressive. So I can't wait to see what she's going to be able to do here. I just want to give everybody a quick reference point. That old track layout that we had the map for, the race lap record, I don't even know what the outright track record was, but the race lap record by Mario Andretti in his kart Indy car, 52.9 seconds to get around this place. I mean, that's just absurd.
That's unbelievable. I mean, that was not that much shorter lengthwise than what we got now. So that's just unbelievable. I think last year when Greg, when you and I were there for Grid Life, we were shooting to break the track record, which is like a 112 or something at the current layout, and we're still a couple seconds away from that. To imagine a 52 at a layout that's almost what, 3/4 of well, I guess it'd be 3/10 of a mile shorter. It's pretty hard to believe.
Oh, I know, but it was just so fast. And when you got it wrong between what is now turn 2 and turn 5, if two cars touched or whatever, you literally went right in to the wall. And I'm not talking about a concrete wall. I'm talking about the cliff face. It was just crazy. And just to give you a little bit of a fun stat here, the outright record here on this layout was set in 2012 by Marc Gené during Ferrari racing days, driving Michael Schumacher's championship-winning 2003 Ferrari at a 1 minute 5.786.
That's so fast.
I know, just unbelievable.
Nicholas Rice-Puto picks up to 4th over Jordan Rick-Segrini. They're going to bail off the racetrack and allow Josh Soto by. Remember, we've got 2 20-minute races coming up to constitute round 4 of this championship. And coming off of a track like Willow Springs, where it was all about carrying momentum, there is some corners here where momentum is key, and a lot of the flatter corners are like that, but there's also some point and shoot, specifically the last corner. This is a trouble spot, I think, for overtaking. It's a great opportunity here, but it also leads onto a long straight, so what you gain here on entry, you might lose tenfold on exit.
That's exactly right. And if you do make the pass, you have got to still be mindful enough to put your car where the other car might try the cutback move, because you're going to be struggling with a little bit of exit speed, as you point out. So racecraft has to play. And one thing we know Morgan Burkhardt is probably unexcelled at is that overslowing into a turn to back everybody up and null out any potential advantage. And I think we're going to see that on full display tonight. 21 1/1000ths, though, the margin right now between him and Hibbett. Olivier Piatek sits 3rd, Rice-Puto, Rick Segrini, and Josh Soto. And I got to tell you, I think Josh's new livery for this season is absolutely stunning.
It looks great.
Just looks so cool.
You know, the Dayglow yellow has been and can be overdone, but not on that car. I think it really fits the bill quite nicely as qualifying is complete here, Greg, and we'll get rolling on course shortly for the first of our 2 20-minute races. And, man, turns 1 and 2 here, they can really invite some chaos as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Turn 1 is just sort of a blind turn over the brow as you come by the start-finish stand. But you get a couple of people side by side in the wrong spot, it can cause chaos. Then this is the entrance to Andretti Hairpin, and there are so many lines you can take, and you'll always seem to get that one guy who just decides to stuff it down the inside way too fast, and that can create obviously some major hazards as well. So everybody's got to really kind of be on their game here. And one of the things that we're delighted is one of the most on their game companies going right now is Full Sense Sims. Practice makes podium. It is a tool along with fun, and these sims that they make, they go a long way in helping you cut back on the expense of track rental and the like to go out and get after it. But if you have to go to the track, 3P Logistics is the way to go. That is a company that has been with us right from the off as one of our presenting sponsors, and Frank Rodriguez, tailored trackside support of the absolute finest type. And right along with them is Final Turn Motorsports. Often they actually will team up when there's lots of cars. They will sort of combine their resources, and they supported each other at the runoffs last year, for instance. And they too, full service prep shop, full on trackside support. And then, of course, FARA has come on board, and FARA is Southern-based, a Florida-based racing series that their whole mantra is keep it cheap, but provide good entertainment. And, for a family of 4 to get in and watch for a weekend of racing literally costs about $20. And the entry fees for the competitors aren't bad either. And then Wine Country Motorsports joined us midway through the first year of the 2023 season, and they've been a great supporter as well. So those are the sponsors that make this happen. And speaking of making it happen, we're about ready to go.
Look at this grid, 36 cars on the grid here for round 4. I think what helps in this is that WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca is a free track in iRacing, so you don't need to purchase it. It comes as base content, so does this Mazda MX-5, so that might be bolstering the grid size here a little bit this week, but it also means that drivers have a lot of experience here. This is not a place like Willow Springs where, you went in and you maybe didn't have a lot of practice laps. You just bought the track hours before. No, this one is one that you should have hundreds of laps on at the very least, at least here in the simulator.
Well, and it's such an iconic track that I would think if it's provided free, you're going to be driving it because it's a pretty fabled place, isn't it? Hey, just want to remind everybody, too, that it was the last race where the hardware prizes were announced. First place gets a Simagic Alpha Mini GT1 wheel. Second place, a Simagic DS8X shifter. And third place, one of your favorite prizes, the Stream Deck Plus. And again, anybody who is an administrator or an instructor, whatever, for Full Send Sims, isn't eligible, nor is anybody who's won one in the same calendar year. So just because you maybe finish 4th or 5th in the championship doesn't mean you're not eligible for one of these great hardware prizes. So that's a simple reminder to keep getting after it.
Let's go through the starting grid here. Morgan Burkhardt and Camden Hibbett will start on the front row, the number 40 and 132. This pace car moves a little quicker than it has in the past, so we got to go. Olivier Piatek in the 62 starts third, and Nicholas Rice-Puto fourth in the 03. And then it's Jordan Rick Sagrini and Joshua Soto sharing row 3. Skip Brock Jr. and Andrew Rosencroft in row number 4, with Beans Forster and Jean Reyes wrapping up the top 10.
And then starting in the 11th spot, the 68 of Wan Chi Lin, and in the 12th spot, Hayden Madison is 65. 13th will be the 311 of Jorge Ortiz. 14th, the 200 of Dylan Lee. 15th will be the 16 of Eric Haywo. 16th will be the CJ Bunn-driven number 86. 17th, the number 20 of Deacon Greenfield. 18th, the number 101 of Joshua Clatterbuck. 19th is going to be the 87 of Celine Roland. And 20th, Murphy Nichols in his car.
Sally Mott, Elliot Burton in row number 11. This pace car really moves quick. I don't remember it going fast. Andrew Guada, Court Schmidt wrapping up row 12. Al Ducharme, Nate Spitz, then Jim Friedhofer, Tony Shelton, Josh Picari, Wayne Buttermore, Arif Aziz, Gil Lynn, and a few more, Greg, as we get ready to take the green.
Yeah, now we're out of breath. We can't call this. All right, here we go. We are green. We are green here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. And Morgan Burkhardt just that little bit of a half car length in front. Hibbett trying to get a little shove from Rice-Puto. Piatek trying to protect. There's that big lunge down the inside. See if everybody makes that work. Oh, a touch there. Wozencroft going around. And gets clouded. I was hoping everybody might be able to avoid it. Not so much. And I think Andrew might be done. What a shame.
That's unfortunate. Lap 1, turn 1, things can get spicy. Burkhardt, Hibbett, they're cleared for first and second. Piatek is under fire from Rice-Puto here in the 4th spot against that 03.
Yeah, Piatek just running a little bit wide there, but put it together and was able to hang on to it. Now watch this. This is this crucial turn 5. This starts the climb up the hill. Really important. Oh, and there goes Soto. And I don't know if he did that on his own or whether he got a little help. Now he's just got to wait for this field to stream by.
I think it looked like it was on his own. We'll go back and look at that a little while longer.
Yeah.
The first run up to the corkscrew here, dropping several stories after dropping down a few gears.
Yeah, it's literally from the entry point right here to the bottom of the corkscrew is 5 stories to right there. And you get to the bottom of Rainy Curve, which is turn 9. In that short amount of track, you've dropped 10 stories. It's just amazing. And here we go through that high speed, quicker than it looked at bank turn 10. You got to roll some pace through there. Dylan Lee in attack mood here.
And Deacon Greenfield under fire from Dylan Lee. And here comes Sally Mott up the insides, clouts the curb, and a couple run wide there. I think that was Lee in the 200, and then CJ Bunn out there as well.
And that is exactly what you were talking about. Sally got a great run down to the inside. As you said, hit that curb a little bit and made the pass, but she was so slow on exit as a result of that she got freight trained and lost everything she had made up. But I love to see she is up on the wheel and ready to get after it here. And she was a bit of a revelation when we saw her in our series last season.
Yeah, so moving forward there in the number 950, that's that blue and red car with the kind of the orange gradient in the middle of the screen. And they're about 2 seconds behind what I would call the main group, which is 11 cars from Burkhardt back to Wan Chi Lin. They're all about 3-4 tenths apart from each other, except for these front two, and this is closing in here, Greg.
It sure is. I mean, Piatek not letting them go, and Rick Sagrini not too far off either. But, man, how often have we seen, particularly in 2024, seen this duo, Burkhardt and Hibbett? They are teammates up until about 2 laps to go, and they both said that. We'll race, we'll try and break everybody, get a gap, but then the gloves come off, and when those gloves come off, they start swinging, and they race each other super hard. But one of the things that Camden mentioned, didn't he, after the race at Willow Springs, he said it's getting harder and harder as Rick Segrini runs a little wide to be able, even with Morgan out front at his pace, to be able to gap some of this field. They have just, everybody has stepped up the pace.
And Andrew Gilliland and a few others had a collision a few laps ago, sort of right after the start. We didn't really get a great look at what happened, so let's go see if we can find what happened. Here is the, he might have been the car that got into the 80, actually.
Yeah. Let's see what happens here. A lot of people slid through, got by Wozencroft. Oh. There it is.
Yeah, a couple hits, and that took enough damage off the nose of the 91 to basically end that run. Sally Mott on Dylan Lee. That's a pass for 13th place as Greenfield tries to drive away.
Here comes Dylan, though, trying to get right back. Ooh, that is a tough place to make a pass. And Dylan got the nose in there, and you can see one, she's swinging way wide, but Sally able to hold him off. Here's this really crucial run up to turn 5, and turn 4 just sort of goes on forever because of this little kink. But here is this absolutely crucial run. You've got to get through here with every bit of momentum you have. And then let's watch this, Kyle, up into, this is that angular turn 6. And literally watch what happens as the cars get to the apex. Boom, there's that compression. And if you get it wrong, as everything releases, it just skates you right off the outside of the track.
Yeah, you can see the compression in a big way. If you watch this in slow motion, just watch the tire gap between the top of the tire and the fender well. Boom, the tire goes up inside the tire there, or the fender well rather, and just makes things real tight. And having experienced riding around here with Matan Rosenberg in his GLTC Corvette, he was grounding out so hard there that the cabin would fill with smoke from tire rub just in that corner alone. So there's a lot of force on the car there.
Yeah, it's really tricky corner, and I think it's the most demanding corner on the track because it's so uphill. And as I said, if you say, okay, I'm going to slow down a little bit and not get that compression, whoa, that was a major off and on there. Was that Court?
It was, down in 19th place, and he had gone for a bit of an excursion off the racetrack. Let's see how it happened. Just a big lunge here, and he just misses it.
Yep.
Contact with Elliott Burton and just runs off into the gravel.
All right, gathers it back up, but now he's got El Ducharme there in that orange Miata right behind him. But again, that turn 6, so if you decide to ease into it a little bit, you're climbing the hill and you're just going to be absolutely dirt slow all the way up to the corkscrew. And if you don't get it exactly right and overdrive into it, well, then you're just bounced right off the track. Speaking of which, here comes Rice Puto inside position in that tricky corner. You don't usually see that happen and not end in massive tears. And I think that was because Olivier was smart enough to give them a little bit of room. But now he's a foul. He's got Ortiz on his outside. And if Ortiz can stay there, it's going to be the old grind and go down through the corkscrew.
Swing out wide here, though. This is what Ortiz can do, is try to over-under. Beautifully done, but now what? You're on driver's left. Now he's going to swing back to the right for turn 10.
Yeah, man, he had the idea, didn't he? Went for that big lunge. It just didn't quite happen for him. Meanwhile, Camden Emmett getting racy up front here. Working the outside for the lead.
Door slammed shut. Burkhardt retains the top spot, but Hibbett is right here, and he's got enough slipstream. He can look to the right and try to carry some speed around the Andretti hairpin.
Well, the thing is, the Andretti hairpin, you can run the outside there, and it won't cost you a whole lot of time or distance. There's grip out there, and if he can be there on the exit, and he's not, and as a matter of fact, Rice Puto looks like he's going to jump on that opportunity and try it, but that was just a little bit too long of a way around. But I think Hibbett's just exploring right now. Where can I make a move?
Yeah, just kind of testing the water, so to speak. And Rice Puto sits third, just kind of keep an eye on it out his windshield. There's other battles still going on. Dylan Lee and Sally Mott. This one has not gone away, has it?
No, and CJ Bunn right there as well. Heaping some pressure onto. Oh, look at this!
We looked away for 3 seconds, and all of a sudden they're side by side.
Yeah, and and it's Rice-Puto into the lead, and Piatek was almost able to sneak through, but Rice-Puto runs wide. Here comes Hibbett. However, Hibbett has that's Burkhardt, who actually got away.
Yeah.
So Hibbett must have tried something. Oh, man, you don't want to let Morgan Burkhardt get that kind of margin. It's already up to about 15 100s here.
Let's go back and see how that formulated, because we kind of missed it. But right there was a lunge from Rice-Puto that put
there you go.
Camden offline, and then on the exit of the corner, nobody wanted to lift, and that's how they got set up like that. But it did give Burkhardt a 7/10 of a second advantage over Hibbett.
And now Camden needs to put his head down. And, one thing about this track, there's really, maybe a little bit from 11 down into the Andretti hairpin, a little bit of draft, but it's not much. So you got to pretty much do it on your own, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, by the time you get up to this point, look at this lunge. Hold that thought. Ortiz from 3 car lengths back to the inside of Piatek.
And Piatek working that outside. Ortiz just drove him off the track. But look at that. Piatek coming in, gives him a little bit of a dissuasive move it, buddy, and comes right back down underneath. And I was looking at some of the drivers' meeting notes, and they sort of adopted a little bit of a grid life kind of approach to racing. Is if there is a car that is alongside, it's not that slight bit of overlap rule, as Ortiz once again just stuffs it down the inside. But if a car is literally along, has established alongside, you've got to give him room. And I don't think Ortiz did that, and sort of ran at that point Rice-Puto right off the track.
Yeah, and nowadays there's a little bit of paved runoff to the outside of some of these curbs. We don't have that here in the simulator. This scan is about a decade or more old, so this is old school. Drop a tire in the dirt, you're getting a 1X and going for a ride. And look at that flow down the corkscrew. I mean, this is one of those corners. You name me 5 famous corners from around the world, and the corkscrew is almost certainly going to be in everybody's top 5. It may not be the most exciting once you actually drive it, but just for the lore about that turn, I mean, think Eau Rouge, the Dipper. I mean, corkscrew. It belongs right in that conversation.
You bet it does. It is that legendary, and with really good reason for sure. And for a minute there, it looked like Rick Segrini was going to have opportunity to maybe attack a little bit on Piatek, but for Piatek, he's got company, and he's got some work to do here. And Rick Segrini has dropped back a little bit, and after missing Willow, Beans Forrester doing what Beans tends to do. He just didn't get the qualifying run he wanted, but he has fought his way up into 7th, has gone around Rick Segrini, has gone around Reyes, and is now starting to come after Skip Brock, who once again is having a very solid race up into that 6th spot. Yeah,
Beans, again, as you mentioned, missed Willow Springs, had to watch it from home, and just like any race car driver when they can't be in the car, that was a frustrating day for him. But he's back and in contention, P7 at the moment. And you mentioned chasing the 32 with Skip Brock. There he is in that blue and yellow car, riding in 6th place. Started in 7th, so it's been slow progress. But ahead of him, things are getting pretty exciting with Piatek and Ortiz again.
Yeah, these two, there's a touch. There was a touch, and I think Piatek lifted to try and avoid knocking Ortiz off the track, and all the weight went forward, and the back end came right around. Boy, those two were at absolute war, weren't they? Look at that.
They were.
Well, that was, and that compression added to it as well.
Yeah, I think it was already sideways, and as soon as it hit the compression, it just finished snapping right there. Bam, and it hits the curb and everything, and it just grinds to a halt.
Boy, and that was a pretty aggressive defense as well by Ortiz between 5 and 6.
Sometimes you could tell me that these drivers want to end up on each other's Christmas lists, and I would believe you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, sim racing, it's simulating the car and also the drivers behind the wheel. So it really is exciting at times. Here's Piatek making his way back by Dylan Lee. Sally Mott was battling the 200, but ended up a couple spots back now behind CJ Bunn.
And up front, Burkhardt has opened up 3/4 of a second over Hibbett, who's got himself another half second. Well, back to Rice-Puto. And the three of them, because of the antics of Ortiz and Piatek et al., now find themselves way, way back from the rest of it. A good 2+ seconds here And so it's really down to this trio at this stage, unless that group, and it's a big one, Ortiz, Forster, Brock, Rick Segrini, Reyes, I think even Eric Haywo is in there. And nice to have him back with us as well.
Yeah, nice big grid today, and the only car that remains on the racetrack or in pit lane of that first collision is Andrew Gillen, but at this point, 7 laps down, I don't think it's returning to the race. A little more contact, Eric Haywo and Wan Shi Lin. This is for 9th. And these guys are treating turn 6 like it's a passing zone. It's one of those places where you typically concede before you go through there.
Yeah, normally you would, but yeah, I'm kind of surprised by it too. But I think it's so inviting because these cars are so equal by design, of course, that if somebody has that little bobble out of 5 and loses that momentum, and again, remember, it's uphill. These cars, they handle brutally, beautifully, but one thing they don't have is power to make up for a little loss of momentum, and it just takes forever to get that speed back. And so I think somebody has that little bobble over driving 5, and they just want to attack into 6 and use that to get through. So we're seeing some seriously brave and creative moves happening here. Soto fighting his way up, trying to come back after that early off, and still deep in the top 20 at this stage.
Yeah, sometimes it's about minimizing your bad days and not about making a good one out of the bad. It's not possible, but if you can just salvage, look at this hip and shoulder here between the 16 and 68.
Yeah, they are giving it a battle. Haywo and Wan Shi Lin here. Look at that. Look at right back at the nose. All right. You know, this would be really kind of fun if we could stay with this guy up through turn 6.
Oh, right.
Talk about getting a look at the compression. Oh, hello.
If we'll get a look at it.
Oh, and he got him a little wide. Haywo running just a little bit wide there, and Wan Shi now up along the inside. This is going to be tricky. Here's that pass into 6.
Ooh, little wide run. And a concede.
Yeah, he was so wide he never even really felt that compression.
Well, we'll do that again next lap with somebody else. Here's a battle for 4th. Jorge Ortiz and Beans Forster leaning on each other. Crash.
Oh! Big! Oh, and they end up on top of each other. Beans going to try and drive away. Ortiz is done. Looks like Beans is struggling here too. Yeah, he's got a broken left rear corner.
Wow.
Man, Beans was having a race.
That was really dramatic.
Yeah, it was.
Get together at the apex and then on the downhill right there. Whew. Fans in that area of the racetrack got their money's worth, huh?
Yes, they did. A little tap there, and obviously that got Ortiz far enough over into the little bit of that dirt verge that he didn't have a whole lot of control, and he was just kind of along for the ride at that point.
That was exciting, and now it's a much bigger gap back to 4th place. Skip Rock Jr. and Jordan Rick Segrini and John Reyes are all battling for P4, and the front 3 are still about the same distance apart from each other. I think there's actually a more exciting battle happening right now between CJ Bunn and Sally Mata than just ahead, Dylan Lee and Olivier Piatek.
Yeah, it's amazing how these two have just been locked in this battle. Remember, part of it for a while was Dylan Lee, but he's been able to open that gap, I think, in part just getting pressured big time by Olivier Piatek and just having to drive to stay in front here. But boy, Sally has been absolutely relentless. And you can see all the little wrinkles here on the nose of one Olivier Piatek as he gets down to the inside, or tries to, of Dylan Lee. Incredibly close here.
Into 6.
Boom! Look at that. That gave you a feel for it.
Side by side now into the corkscrew. This is always a tricky situation because it puts you immediately on defense after the offensive pass here on the left. But Piatek will clear Dylan Lee just in time to clear him for the downhill run through Rainy Curve. I love this corner at speed. So much compression happening all at once, and you're carrying really good speed, gravity assist as well.
And depending upon how your car's working and what's unfolding, you can run a little different line than just the quote-unquote standard line in Rainy Curve, turn 9. And you can actually go a little wider in and then use that banking and that compression to drive down and get a run on somebody and surprise them at 10. I've seen that happen. It's doable, but you've got to really execute the corkscrew and 9 with great precision.
Skip Brock Jr. leads Rick Segrini. This is the battle for 4th place. We're at 2 laps to go in this first race of the night.
And Camden has stabilized the gap to Morgan Burkhardt, but he hasn't been able to really close it up at all.
Yeah, it's about half a second now. It was at most about 7.5 tenths, but it's just chipping away at it in hundredths or thousandths.
Yeah. I think it'll be somebody up front here will have to make a little bit of a mistake, which isn't necessarily impossible. But that battle for 4th, I think, is the best battle on the track right now for sure.
And here comes Jordan Rick Segrini to driver's right. He's going to think driver's left. Now, he's had trouble getting around Skip Brock Jr., but we mentioned his weekend in Toyota GR Cup at Barber. That is a track that is really challenging to formulate a pass. So he might have learned a thing or two about where to save your energy to deploy it later.
Well, that's part of the game, obviously. You know, this track, because it's sandy, it's been repaved, so it's no longer, as we get that white flag coming out, it's no longer as abrasive on tires, but because of the sand that gets on the track, it still can be slippery in spots, as we've talked about. And so you've just got to be mindful of it. But here we go. It's a 3-car battle for 4th. Probably the best battle on the track. Rick Segrini getting a run. That little toe we talked about popping to the outside. He's going to go way, way outside. And behind him, Reyes going even farther outside, looking to try and dive down to the inside somewhere. And nobody giving him that opening, not even the slightest hint of one.
Yeah, he thought about turning in late and getting a better run, but wasn't in the throttle quite early enough. No changes at the front of the field for now. I think this is going to be the highest points-paying battle we've got on the final lap. And Rick Segrini is setting him up beautifully for a run into 5. But I always worry about passing into 5 because it's all uphill from here, Greg. It'll slow you down massively if you get it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really tricky one to work. And you're almost better off to just not do it. But look at this now, as watching Reyes pins himself on the outside of Rick Segrini. That's going to limit Rick Segrini on the exit here. He's not going to be able to flow quite as much, although it wasn't bad. But look at Reyes. He's got the nose ahead. And that's that momentum we were talking about. It's just that little bit that Jordan lost there. Reyes able to take advantage of it. And meanwhile, Skip Brock able to open up. Handy little margin. Look at this. Camden is closing it up a bit, but it's the final lap. He's got it down to only 4 tenths, but I don't think that's going to be enough here. Morgan, one more turn to go. Out of turn 11. Onto the throttle. And Morgan, the kid, Burkhardt, coming by. 3rd in the points right now. Camden up front. That's not going to help Camden. It's not going to hurt Morgan for sure. And Skip Brock surviving that war, and how about that? That was a nice move by Reyes, and again, he just pinched Jordan a little bit here. And look at this, Sally. Does she have anything trying to attack on CJ Bunn? Looks like he's got the mojo.
Up from 20th place to 13th in race 1. She'll have to continue that trek in race number 2 later, and most of the battles, I think, have mostly sorted. Court Schmidt, despite his big off, picked up 5 positions along the way. Preston Pardis is right behind.
Yeah, a little surprised to have Preston that far back.
Yeah, I don't think he got a qualifying lap in, so started dead last.
Oh, well, then that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, 33rd to 19th. And again, I think he'll be one of the drivers to continue that clawing back a little bit later. Arif Aziz and Wayne Buttermore, they're coming around to take the checkered flag here as well. But before we lose our results here, Greg, here's a look at the way things panned out. And maybe no surprise for the top 3, but within the top 10, Eric Haywo, Deacon Greenfield, Juan Shi Lin getting nice runs in.
Yeah, he did it. Jean Reyes, I'm really impressed with what he was able to do in that entire race. You've seen the speed from him, and he really put it together here. And then Olivier Piatek, what a fight back for him to crack that top 10 again right at the end of the race.
Yeah, then Dylan Lee, P11, had some good battles in this one. CJ Bunn, Sally Mott, Josh Soto, he had a spin and rebounded for a 14th. Elliot Burton we saw get together with Court Schmidt. Both of them score top 20s, including Preston Pardis, who had to start at the tail of the field.
And I'll tell you what, Beans did a nice job after that incident. He did get going again, and in the number 23 was able to finish 23rd, which is a heck of a lot better than 36th. or 35th. So should be fun watching him come through the pack here when we get our second of these doubleheader races underway in just a little bit.
I would say so. So in just a moment, we're going to kind of debrief a couple of things that we saw, because I think some drivers learned a few places in particular. I think what I was going to point out was turn 6. That didn't go well most of the time. So learned there. But also the start collision. We knew that turn 1, lap 1 is always a little tricky, but Greg, don't we still have a rule about causing collisions that first time?
Yes, I looked at the drivers' meeting notes, and it said turn 1, lap 1 rule in place. And if you cause an incident until you take a driver's school, if you will, or a racecraft academy, if you cause an incident in that first turn, that I can't really blame that on Andrew. He looked fine. And who was that?
I think it was the 16 of Hewo that got in there and kind of triggered.
And got beans, yep.
And then from there.
It looked okay, and then there was that big hit, and Andrew Gilliland right there got into the back. I think that was Court.
Yeah, so
and, broke his right front pretty comprehensively.
Yeah, so a couple big contacts here, Greg. But all right, we learned a couple things about race number 1. We've got race 2 coming up here shortly, and oh boy, this is going to be an exciting one here. Again, points on the line. Let's talk about the season as a whole here as well, because we talked earlier about there's some drop races and things, but this is our 4th round. We head to Sebring next week. That's a pretty familiar track for most of these guys. Road America, Lime Rock, Mid-Ohio, Road Atlanta, and Sebring again to wrap up the season. So we're approaching the midpoint. Morgan Burkhardt's looking pretty good. Who's going to take him down this season?
Well, yeah, the problem is that he missed that one event, didn't he? And that's hurt him a little bit, because he's looking for some events to drop, and he doesn't have as many, and that's why right now Hibbett is out front, 33 points clear of Rick Segrini, but Morgan right there with 2 less races at 18 points behind. But Gilliland, I think this is the story. He's only 9 points off of Morgan Burkhardt here. And then the next group, it's all a point separating Burton, Wozencroft, Soto, each separated by a point. Skip Rock's 7 points behind Soto in the 8th spot. It's pretty compressed there, except for that one big chunk right up at the front between those top 3. Morgan certainly has the ability, we know that, to string together a number of races. And so what that really, to me, is saying to Camden Hibbett and to Jordan Rick Segrini, you can't have bad races. You have got to stay in the fight. You've got a podium all the time, because the kid's hunting.
He is, absolutely. And again, a podium for Gilliland last week at Willow Springs, what that does for your confidence. And we know that the confidence breeds commitment, and that is going to breed the results that you see on the racetrack. So I think that gave him a big boost that he needed here, and I think he'll be able to parlay that. I think the first race of the night was obviously disappointing because of the collision that he was involved in, but you treat it like 2 separate races and try to grab as many as you can in the second one of the night.
Yeah, absolutely, and you have to have that approach. We've said it before, one of the best tools for a race car driver is a short memory. You just have to say, all right, that one's out, not going to worry about it. And Gilliland, when he got that podium, he showed himself that I can run with these guys. And it wasn't like, everybody wrecked in front of him and he just eked his way into it. He was scrapping, he was fighting. And I think that's the biggest part of the confidence. We've always seen those bursts of speed, but he showed the racecraft there. And I think that's the big leap, is to say, wow, I can really race with these guys. And, so it's just going to be fun to, watch what he does for the rest of this season. And, you think back in a way to the end of 23 and that 3rd season of 2023 to the first season of 2024. And the growth of Camden Hibbett, right? And we might see something similar from Andrew Gilliland.
That's a great point. I mean, it took a couple of seasons for things really to start to click, but there was also a time when I think Camden Hibbett had the speed, but just couldn't parlay it into the results, and got himself in trouble a few times. But once he got over that hump, he was, and still is, obviously a persistent competitor at the pointy end of the field. And we're talking about Camden Hibbett having off days if he's fourth. So, like, this is the kind of thing that happens over time with experience. And I think you're absolutely right that Andrew Gilliland is putting them together. It's all clicking now, and now he's just got to get to the point of getting himself out of bad situations. You look at the start of that race, the reason why he got involved in that was because he didn't have a strong qualifying effort. So the night is 3 sessions, qualifying in 2 races, and the first session is just as important as the others.
Well, and historically, and I pay attention to this stuff, and I look at average start position and then average finish. And if you're outside of the top 10 generally in your average start position, you're outside of the top 15 in the finish position, because you are so much more likely to get caught up in one of those turn 1 incidents or turn 2 incidents here on the opening lap, because you're just in the thick of it, right? And if you can crack that top 10 consistently in qualifying, the odds are a lot less that you're going to get involved in something. So you've really got, step 1 here is figure out how to get a good qualifying lap. You just have to figure it out. And if you can do that, game's afoot.
I've long said that I think qualifying is a massively underrated part of a race weekend. Every time you look at, like, for example, the Monaco Grand Prix, everyone talks about how the race is basically won there. And it's just because if it's hard to pass and when the competition's tight, you need to start where you want to finish. And if you want to finish first or second, you've got to start there and try to keep everyone in the rear view. So that's the challenge here in this field that's so competitive. And you've got the tricky challenge of collisions at the start as well to navigate.
And difficult track to pass on, like we had at Willow, like we had at Barber. And so a lot of that, a la Monaco, the better the qualifying, the better, chance you have. But then there's the other side of it too, is that in real world racing for sure, and it applies here, I think, and you would know more about that. But the farther back you are, when you have to race through the field, you take more out of your tires by far. You take more out of your brakes. You take more out of your gearbox. You have a much higher chance of one of those missed shifts and a blown motor. All of that happens here when you struggle in qualifying. It really dominoes a bad qualifying does into so many other elements of a race.
You have to drive so much harder when you start at the tail because you can't fall into a rhythm. You're dealing with traffic and looking in your mirror a lot more because you've got, who knows what else going on behind you. So your awareness has to pick up, and every time your awareness outside the car has to pick up for other cars, you're not focusing on where you're going. And it's just very important. I wish we could really explain how important it is. I think we did a good job with that, but it's just not easy.
It's not, and it takes a toll, on the vehicle. Every time you make a pass, you're probably standing on the brakes harder and diving to the inside, and then you're loading those tires up, and they're scrubbing sideways, and you're just using the car up a lot faster. And if you're up front, you can just let it flow, so to speak.
I mentioned last week how we were expecting to have a major update. Martin Ramirez is off track, by the way. Well, we did have a major update, and one of the updates that I don't know has a massive impact, but is worth noting, is the clutch model got a bit of work. And because these are H-pattern cars with that stick shift, this applies to them. But previously, iRacing's clutches had, the bite point was slightly different on every car, but there was a set bite point for every single car. If you got an MX-5 in one race, it'd be the same bite point as another. iRacing, to combat cheating for standing starts, has implemented a slight randomization of the clutch's bite point. And that refreshes every single session between qualifying qualifying and the race. So you have to kind of chase the clutch bite point just a little bit. It's not going to be a massive thing, but something to consider, Greg, as we get ready to go racing.
Everything matters, doesn't it? We are green. Piatek trying that big outside jump early, going with Rick Segrini, who saw it coming. 3 abreast, heading down into the Andretti hairpin. That looks like a NASCAR start on a speedway, doesn't it? Unbelievable. Will we all get through? Front third, front half. Looking good here. Ooh, Rick Segrini way off. Has to come back on. He and Reyes almost got together. And look at Rice Budo, seeing Jordan coming, just faints over and says, yeah, no.
Oh, this is very busy at the moment, isn't it? This is wild stuff. Joshua Soto's on the inside. I think that was CJ Bunn. No, that's actually Wanshi Lin in the 68. And for the race lead, here comes Camden Hibbett into turn 5.
He's going to dive in there, And Burkhardt had no option but to give him room because Camden certainly had the overlap, but Rice Pudo senses opportunity. And again, that's that little momentum loss when you're offline, and Rice Pudo is going to take it right to the apex. Morgan sweeps the outside, drops the rights, as does Hibbett, but Morgan hangs on to the lead. Okay, this is getting serious early here.
Game on, I guess, right? I mean, that was 3 wide into 5. Oh, look out. Here comes Eric Haywo. He made up 3 spots in one corner with that move. Pass complete.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you have got to credit Skip Brock and Rick Segrini for somehow sensing that coming, because it would, oh no, Wan Chi, bottom of the corkscrew having a moment, but gathers it up and drives off.
That was all on his own. It just snapped on him. That was weird.
Yeah, well, I think he was right on top of that sandy area that you pointed out earlier. Oh, Soto just gets hip checked as he turns in. I'm not sure he gave I think he gave as good as he got in terms of the squeeze play there.
Look again, and that's a long ways back there.
From way back.
86 to CJ Bunn. But to go back to Wan Chi's spin, I think there might have been a bit of, if he let out the clutch, if he was in the middle of a shift and let out the clutch at the wrong time. I mean,
it kind of looked like that, didn't it?
It snapped around like it was like a driveline issue. So
yeah, it really did.
That could have been the case. Preston Pardis there in 12th place on the outside of Deacon Greenfield. If you want to go to school with an MX-5, how about race a guy like Pardis?
That's the way to do it, that's for sure. He's making his way up through the field as we suspected he would. And Sally Mott sitting in that 16th spot. I think she lost a couple of spots from the start, and now she's got some work to do here. But Preston, I'll tell you, when he's on it, he is really, really special here. And Hayden Mann is sitting in the 14th spot. Court Schmidt has fought his way up into 15th.
Yeah, he has, and after race 1 didn't exactly go the way he was hoping for. I think he'd like to parlay this into a slightly better result. 15th now, up 3 positions from the start of this race. Burkhardt has got a half a second advantage over Camden Hibbett. He's gotten that pretty quickly, I have to say. And then Rice Pudo, Reyes, Rick Segrini, the rest of your top 5.
Yeah, well, all of that happened, remember, when Camden got that move, and then Rice Pudo dove underneath both of them. And when Morgan was able to hang on around the outside of turn 6, again, everybody else was sort of pinched a little bit. Ooh, was that a touch, or was that just a little curb hit?
Curb, I think, for the 60 or for the 20 car of Greenfield.
Oh, it looks like Sally is heading into the pits.
Yeah, whoa, here comes Schmidt running wide. Deacon got a great run. Yeah, you're right. I think Sally did peel off there. She might have had some damage she needs to repair. See how animated Deacon is right now, trying to move forward. He said he lost 5 spots. I could read the lips, and he has.
I'll tell you what, he's opted to not run with the VR headset, and but still has that pretty trick steering wheel there, very formula looking. Look at this scrap once again. Reyes, Rick Segrini, Brock, Piatek, covered by the proverbial blanket with Haywo sitting right there in the 8th spot.
And look at Piatek charging through, and Rick Segrini's lost a few in one corner, and he'll lose another one on this short shoot.
Piatek, it's going to be interesting here. He's looking to get back in line, does a nice job, even though he was a little bit pinched on turn-in, just kind of forced his way into the gap. But just that little bit of battling with those guys has brought Haywo right onto the back here of Rick Segrini. It changes in a big hurry. Yeah,
you know, you'd like to think when you're in the secondary group that you can catch those front runners, but the battling just takes you out of it. It's so much easier to unravel a battle than it is to stitch one together at the front of the field, isn't it? So
it really is.
You know, you can lose so much better than you can gain.
Yeah, for sure. So much easier. And up front, speaking of which, we've got the top 3 are covered by half a second. So Hibbett and Rice Pudo have been able to reel Morgan right back in again here. And, you know, again, I wonder what we're going to see at this stage from anybody trying to really push aggressively like we're seeing here. And again, Piatek down to the inside, Reyes right in front of him. And Rick Segrini trying to get back around some people there, and he's gotten around on Brock.
Making moves, trying to pick up what he got taken away a lap ago. Dust flying out of turn 3. The other thing is, you know, those big red sausage curbs, in so many cars, you don't want to touch those. In these MX-5s, they can handle them. And just speaking from experience, there are a couple corners that you really need to use them just to get the rotation out of the car to go at the speed. So, you know, trouble for, I think that is, who is that actually? Martin Ramirez. Ramirez in the 982.
Okay.
But my point being is that because you don't have the threshold for suspension failures are so high in iRacing, you can really attack those, and you have to attack them to make speed. Contact, and Reyes and Haywo, much like we saw in the last race, get tangled together.
Yeah, same spot, only in this case, both of them able to keep it on track as opposed to flipping through the air here. And Reyes, yeah, he was more thinking about Rick Zagrini, and I think Haywo just surprised him a little bit.
Back out front, 13 minutes to go, and Hibbett is there.
Yes, he is. And Rick Zagrini, I'm not sure that's a bad move by Nick right now. He's just laying back a little bit. Here comes Hibbett, and not sure that's so much a pass thought right there. Whoa,
there was a push.
Yeah, there was. I think he just had such a run, he didn't want to null that momentum, so he just swung out and then turned in. And I think he carried a little bit more speed in than he was expecting, perhaps.
The run that Camden got.
It kind of looks like Hibben's a little faster.
It does, and you see them nibbling that curve there on the inside of 4, like I mentioned. But look at the runs Hibbett's got now. What does he do with them? Is he going to go left? No, he's going to go right. I like this move. Pin the 40 to the inside. It's going to hamper the run all the way around the rest of the racetrack.
And he's going to pit. I was thinking right there that Morgan with that protect move might have lost a little bit coming up, but Morgan just so good at just flowing mid-corner speed. Really didn't hurt him too bad.
Hold that thought.
But look,
this is getting pretty spicy.
Yes, it is. That's Manis. Is that CJ?
It is, and then Elliott Burton and Deacon Greenfield all in battle for about 10th spot.
Boy, Deacon got a nice, if he makes this work and he's got position.
Okay, back to regularly scheduled programming for the
here
lead.
We go.
Wow.
Down to the inside for his second. That puts him outside here, but he can ramp down turn 10. Burkhardt gonna protect under braking. And here we go. Oh, and a tap there. Rice Pudo was gonna try the over-under, I think, Kyle.
He was going to, and he got the door slammed hard by Camden Hibbett. And we couldn't even watch the other battle because as soon as we did, they went right back to battling. And now Hibbett's lost a bunch of ground, half a second's worth. That took so long to close that gap and only a quarter of a lap to make it all exist again.
You know what? These battles up front with these three have allowed Piatek and Rick Zagrini, they were 2.5 seconds back. They've taken a full second off of that battle. They are steaming into this pretty good here.
Yeah, I think at some point the leaders will wise up and realize that there's a lot of ground to lose here still. If you give it another 5 minutes, I don't think the math works in the trailing driver's favor, but they are continuing to eat into that advantage. A 1.5 seconds back, and as soon as Hibbett opens the door for the lead again, which it looks like he has the pace to do, then all bets are off.
Yeah, it really does. He just seems to have a little bit more speed here. And the thing is, you never know with Morgan. You know, he may be driving, you know, the classic drive just slow enough to lead, right? You know, saving everything. And he is the absolute master of killing the momentum of the people that are chasing him. And so sometimes it's, you know, better to do what Camden has done, like into the Andretti hairpin a couple of times, is you've got that head of speed, just go outside and just keep it alive, because otherwise Morgan's going to you know, try and stop it for you. CJ Bunn, I thought for a second, into the corkscrew was going to attack on Deacon. Battles
everywhere. Joshua Soto, Andrew Guada, Murphy Nichols back here in the 55. We see Murphy now and then here in this series, but 25th to 18th here in this race, so making some good progress.
And let me point something out here. Dead last to 15th, won Andrew Gilliland.
Wow, that's impressive.
He is having a hell of a run. He really is. There he is.
Wanted to point out also that I believe that for Murphy Nichols, He runs over in the DC region SCCA, and I believe his race car just blew a motor, and he's running on a pretty tight budget. So that's the beauty of iRacing, though, Greg, is that when things go awry in your real-world racing programs, we all know how expensive it is. You can hop on the simulator for, what is it, $15 a month, and continue practicing and keep your racecraft sharp so that when you eventually do get your engine back in your motor or what have you, you're still ready to go.
Absolutely, and that's what Court and Full Send Sims, they go, yes, this is fun. You get on, you have fun, at a race and gaming and all that kind of thing. But Court comes from the military sim world, and for him, this is building a tool to help you become a better racer in the real world, as much as it is just for fun. And he is committed and dedicated to that prospect, and that's why their slogan is that practice makes podium. Because it plays out like that in the real world.
And we've seen that be the case with Morgan, with Camden, with others.
Yep, Jordan. And by the way, Piatek and Rick Segrini have trimmed another 3/10. Look at them. They're closing on this gap.
And they're about to trim more out because I think Hibbett's back, and he's not going to hold punches. He knows that if he waits to the last lap like you typically would in an iRacing MX-5 race, you're not going to get it done. Morgan's got enough tricks up his sleeve that you need to start trying right now. It's about 5 laps to go this time through.
Yep, and he gets out of, right now, Hibbett generally gets pretty good runs out of turn 11, although Morgan, nice job on that one. And Rice Pudo probably got the best of the 3 of them coming out of 11 that time. Look at them just open that track up and then just roll speed down in here. And every time they do that, they're really hoping that Morgan, will turn in a little early and then open the door up at the apex. And there's a jam play down to the inside. Hayden Mann is diving inside Jean Reyes.
And Eric Haywo, and it pushes Reyes out wide. Burton and Wozencroft are trading positions. Remember where Andrew Wozencroft was at the end of race 1? 27th. He's back to 12th.
I'll tell you, Andrew, I think, is one of the revelations of this season. He has
stepped
that thought,
it Greg.
up.
3 wide for the lead.
Up the hill, Rice Pudo. He's got position as they head into 6, Kyle. And this is going to be tough because Morgan going to cut down, but he has to check up. Oh, what I thought. Watch, here he goes. You bet. Hibbett is going to force his way through here, or try.
In the dirt on the back straightaway, trying to find any room to race. Rice Pudo leads, a little hip check there on the downhill, and here comes Piatek.
Yeah, that little hip check might have hurt Camden, just able to cover it. But it just went from a 3-car battle to a 5-car battle, and Rice Pudo third to the lead.
Wow, this got wild. Again, anytime you look away for 2 seconds, things change very quickly. Here's Burkhardt on the brakes again. He knows how important it is to get this lead back with how hard everyone's fighting. He can't get to the inside. They stay single file.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, there was no way that Nicholas Rice Pudo wasn't going to just slam the door there. He knew, I've got to stay in front here. And he's going to do a little bit of protecting, and you can see Burkhardt staying way down to the inside. Now feints out to the outside. And it's really critical here for Nicholas not to open that door up. He didn't. And here comes Piatek rounding up. Nice move on Jordan. And picks up that 4th spot.
Yeah, Rick Segrini wanted 2 spots there, and he ended up with 0. Just didn't have the timing quite right. And all of this, look at this disaster on a turn 2. This is wild.
Yeah, that was 5 cars abreast, 3 of them on the track, actually. Here comes Burkhardt. And Rice Pudo now has to protect, and there's a touch there. And Rice Pudo, that could roll. Look at that. Camden just says, thank you.
This is crazy. Everywhere on the road right now.
Camden, that's so, way, way wide. And that's really going to hurt him on the run up the hill, and I think he's going to lose potentially 2, maybe 3 spots. Rick Segrini's going to try and freeze him out. And look at Morgan trying the outside. And that was really savvy there by Rice Pudo. There wasn't contact, but he pinched Morgan big time, and that really hurt Morgan's run. Now, this is what I was talking about. Out of 9, out of Rady, you saw how Morgan used that wide arc to try and just motivate down the hill a little bit, and Rice Pudo was just quick enough to cover it.
They're going to bring
watch for Camden to get the run out of this. And look at Morgan coming over and trying to dissuade him. Oh, boy.
They just brought Skip Brock Jr. into this fight now, too. Add another one to the group.
Did. Yeah,
Dylan Lee.
Yeah. Look at this. Side by side through one. You can see how that can be a tricky little corner. It's flat out, but it's blind all the way to it here. Now Morgan's going to try.
Oh, look at
Camden. Him, and what a move. Does he make this stick, Kyle?
That was incredible. Just saw the door open and went for it. We're 2 wide for the lead. Morgan wants to make it 3 abreast. He'll have to sit behind and wait again. Now we'll try to cross him over, give the 0-3 a shove, and door-to-door into 4.
All right, and now what does Nicholas do here? He's got Camden out there. He gave Camden enough room. And now Morgan's going, oh, which way do I go? And ultimately decide, well, I thought he was going to try and split everybody. But this could be interesting here. And Rice Pudo just can't keep the nose ahead. And that's going to give Camden a nice run up the hill. And I don't think Morgan's got enough, but here comes Piatek inside of Rice Pudo, Kyle.
Yeah, Piatek's going to grab a spot. Rice Pudo's going to have to lift. It's going to give Jordan Rixagrini an opportunity, but here comes Burkhardt with a big run. Driver's right and momentum on the side of the 40.
Yeah, I don't think, though, that that outside, he's going to just try and make it. Oh, a little bump there, and that was enough. And I was going to say, Camden's not going to give it to him that easy here. And Rice Pudo,
look at
that move.
Morgan's got to slow down.
He cut the course, didn't he?
He did, and it's going to drop him at least 2 spots. Now, they also made an adjustment to how the slowdowns operate, Greg. It makes them a lot easier to clear, so that before that would parlay itself into a 5 or 6 second penalty, but it was probably only about 1.1 seconds worth, which means he should be clear now, and that's a big savior for drivers here cutting the corkscrew. Yeah,
it sure is here. And look at that. Morgan, even with that slowdown, he set Rice Pudo up for a run out of 11, and he's got position. And Rixagrini's going to try and be Nicholas's hero here and push him to the front, but to no avail here. And now Nick's going to try and get down underneath Morgan, and look at Morgan just got those left side tires on the apex curve all the way around there, and that was pure protection.
And 2 laps to go. Next time by will be the white flag lap, and it might just be 2 drivers at the front there between Hibbett and Piatek.
I'll tell you, nice job there. I'm not sure who that was in the orange car, but you know, the blue flag is a command flag when it's displayed in this, and just got way out of the way. So we got Hibbett up by half a second, Morgan 2/10. Well, it's actually, that looks like it's changed up a little bit, hasn't it here? It's interesting what's unfolding here. But Morgan, Rice Pudo, Rixagrini, Skip Brock, Dylan Lee, this battle for the final podium spot is going to be a furious one, presuming that they don't close up and make it a much bigger battle for the top steps of the podium. We're coming around to the white, I believe, right?
Yeah, we will be, and Piatek is setting himself up, I think, for an opportunity to steal a race win. And so far his season, you know, it's been an interesting one. He's had some really good races and some really bad races. So I think he would really just like to get some good points, but when the win is this close.
Well, and one of his really good races was a win.
Yes.
So he's got that speed, he's got that potential. He just hasn't been able to string them together like a Hibbett or a Burkhardt. As the white flag comes out, last lap here in the Monterey Peninsula, an absolutely incredible setting. And what a second race in particular we have had. What a brouhaha. Morgan turning in really early there, but again, just absolutely somehow manages to keep those lefts on that apex curve, and that is a huge dissuasive success story, as there goes Sally McNulty back out of the pits, keeping everybody behind him as he has trimmed some of that margin. He's closed in a little bit on these two, but I don't know, too late, because he's still got Rice Pudo glued to him.
I think Piatek is going to have one shot at this. If he nails these next 2 corners, I think he'll have an opportunity down into turns 10 and 11. 2/10 back is close enough that within braking margins you have a shot, but that was critical. Oh, gosh.
Oh, that compression, it just, the rebound launches you sideways a little bit, and you get that little bit of a compression in the steering, too. This is key. Man, look at how early they picked the throttle up, and now falling down through Rainey. This wonderful turn, nicking that apex. And now here we go into turn 10. Last time The only remaining overtake area is down here into this very tight turn 11. Ooh, Piatek, everybody, it's the compression under the brakes. Hibbett absolutely nailing it. I think he's got this one covered. Is Burkhardt going to be able to do anything with Piatek? Rick Segrini on Rice Puto. No! Everybody hold station. It's Hibbett with the win over Piatek and Burkhardt. And then Nicholas Rice Puto just hanging on to fourth over Rick Segrini and then Brock. And look at this battling. Andrew Wozencroft, ninth place. What a drive by Andrew.
And look at
that
this.
Is just the
Gilliland,
game is
Forster.
on. Gilliland, did he get it?
Close. Let's see. At the stripe, Gilliland gets him. By how much? I don't even have a time displayed on my screen.
I think that was your classic photo finish, baby. Wow.
This is a computer. It should tell me exactly how much, but it won't.
You would think.
It won't. That tells me that was a tie, or about as close to it as you're going to get in a simulator.
Right. Yeah.
Wait, let's see. Where's the start finish? Is right under here. Well, it was right before that, wasn't it?
That was incredibly close.
Right there. That is the line. Oh, gosh.
Unbelievable.
I mean, come on.
How do you judge that?
Well, usually the computer will tell you. Yeah, I mean, look at that.
It says the gap for both of them from the leader, identical, 26.344. So there was no gap. That's why you're not getting one.
That is incredible.
Wow.
If we had
how do you determine who gets it?
Well, usually you would go by, I mean, in real life, you'd go by video. I don't have a great angle of this, but I mean, iRacing, I think, actually does scoring down to the 100,000th, but they just don't display the fourth digit, so that could be it. But either way, that is an unbelievable finish there for 13th place. 12th place. Give it to Gilliland, starting from the tail of the field over Murphy Nichols, who also started pretty far back there.
Yeah, that was, to me, that's the amazing part for where Andrew started here. But what a scrap we had at the front, and that one little cut course really hurt Morgan. But it was not a sure thing he was going to win without that problem, just the way Hibbett and Piatek were attacking. And for a while there, it was a five-car battle. That top five were all in the hunt at some point or another.
Yeah, pretty exciting stuff there. There's your top five. Jordan Rick Segrini, Skip Brock Jr., Dylan Lee had a nice run there in race 2. A couple of top 10s for him tonight. John Reyes, Andrew Wozencroft from the tail of the field to 9th. That is a hugely successful rebound, I'd say. You just wonder if he had gotten to keep his original starting position, how that would have gone. Yeah,
absolutely. And then C.J. Bunn there in 11th, and Gilliland from way at the back as well. Nichols was scrapping the whole time. Beans sitting there in the 14th spot. I think he started back in 23rd. Clatterbuck, Friedhofer, Kortschmidt, a good solid 17th. Andrew Gaeta, Arif Aziz, Josh Bakari completing your top 20.
And look down the rest of the order here. Sally Mott didn't get a great race in race 2. Deacon Greenfield got caught up in a collision late in that one. So did Soto. So not a good round for the 77. Elliot Burton and Preston Pardis also had issues and were out.
And then all the way back, 35 cars taking the green in this one. Wan Chi Lin, who was showing some really good form, having a moment and a problem as well. But wow, did we see some racing, particularly in race 2, Kyle.
That was a lot of fun. Driver that was on the podium in race 1, but not in race 2, was Nicholas Rice Puto, who comes home in 4th. Man, kind of rough and tumble out there. Podium on the night, 4th in race 2. Your thoughts after a pretty wild race at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca?
It was probably the funnest race I've done on iRacing, period. That was sick. Still coming down from it a little bit, but yeah, it's been a rough start to the season, but I think if I could put couple good weekends together, I could be back in it. But yeah, the first 3 have had a DNF in each race, at least one of them. So
yeah, and that's a great point. This one you're going to get 3rd and 4th place points, so that's a solid rebound. And obviously, after a couple of DNFs, it can't hurt to have that little bit, like you said, just fun and joy, and that's confidence building as well to get you right back into play.
Yeah. How you guys been? I haven't talked to you guys in a while.
No, it was great. I mean, we really enjoyed that. This second race, it felt like we were playing whack-a-mole watching the battles. There'd be one going on. We watched that happen, smash that one, and then we'd be missing one that was 3 wide somewhere else on the racetrack. So this track and this place, it was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I did a lot of practice here for the Racing Prodigy thing. I think it was like 6 months ago. So I have some laps under my belt here, so I felt pretty good.
Well, and I'll tell you what, do us a favor. We've missed talking to you, so don't leave us hanging like that again.
All right, I won't. You got my word. All right.
All right. Thanks,
all right,
Nicholas.
bud. Well done.
All right.
And third place in race number 2, and the winner of race 1 was Morgan Burkhardt. Morgan, kind of wild. One little slip up, one slow down knocks you down to 4th or 5th place, and you muscled your way back to 3rd, but it got fierce there in that second race. Why didn't that happen in race 1, you think?
Yeah, no, I think race 2, everything just really, really came out. I think the difference was race 1, the pack wasn't as big. I don't think there were as many players in it. It was essentially me and Camden, and I think Nick was out front as well in race 1. And I forced him to go side by side halfway through, and then just kind of checked out from there and was able to manage the gap. But I think when everybody's pushing so hard to just string out or stretch a gap and things like that, it's you end up getting less racing because everybody's already on the limit. You can't outbrake someone. You can't make a move when they're already at the limit. And then race 2, I spent the first half of the race just kind of pissing Camden off, and that was the goal there, was to just kind of get him riled up, get him angry. And it worked. And it just kind of stacking up the pack. There were more and more people there. More and more people started to show up, and then eventually the floodgates are going to break, and Nick got through, and then from there it was just an absolute scrap.
Yeah, and I got to ask you, at a couple of points in that second race, it looked to us like Camden may have been a little bit quicker, but was that you in part as well up front? We talked about how you're the master of sort of killing everybody's momentum behind you. Was that, part of the play?
Yeah. I mean, at that point, I only have to drive as fast as I need to. Like, I'm not going to be able to break away unless I get to 8 or 9 tenths.
Yeah.
And until I get the 2 behind me to start racing, which they never ended up doing, I'm not going to drive away from them on pure pace in the draft. So you can't overcome the draft. So I was just kind of like, I'll get out in front a little bit, and then I'll just kind of coast a little bit, save some tire, get him to push real hard to burn up his equipment, and then get back, and then we'll do it again. So it's kind of a lot of just playing the mind games and making him have the impression that he's got pace on me and he can just pass me whenever he wants to. And then you get to me, and it's just hard. And that's just, like I said, trying to get him angry, because I haven't seen him angry a lot. I saw it one time, and I liked what I saw. So just gonna try and piss him off a little bit more. And I think we got to that in the corkscrew. We had a little bit of contact coming over the hill. I mean, that's like, there's nothing wrong with it, but that's like the line, and that's so awesome that we can get to that point. That I love that kind of racing. I have no hard feelings about that. That was just as close as it can get, as hard as it can get. I had a blast.
Yeah, that was, that moment, was indicative of a lot of that race. It was really, really cool. And I got to thank you for confirming a theory that I had. As I said at one point, I said that, Morgan might just be driving slow enough to stay in the lead.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. You don't have to. If you know you're not going to be able to break away, there's no point in trying. I mean, you're going to burn up your equipment, so just bring them all back, make the pack even bigger, just, kind of play the lines a little bit NASCAR style. So
I wish I was fast enough to have that problem. Yeah, I'm always driving at 110. I can't even seem to get to the lead, so...
Well, and I got to tell you that, speaking of NASCAR, that start, Morgan, of race 2, it was like a NASCAR start at Talladega. There were like 6 rows of 3 going into Andretti hairpin. It was spectacular. So thanks as always, man. Such a treat to watch you race.
Thank you guys for calling it. I'm sure it's going to be a great show when I start to watch it back.
It was a great one.
Like it.
Thanks, Morgan.
All right, then. See you guys next week.
See ya.
That's what we're talking about, Kyle. Look at that.
Yeah, it was fantastic to watch. Olivier Piatek comes home in second in race number 2, fought his way back, carving through this chaos at the start. Olivier, 10th to 2nd. Wow, what a night. Take us through it.
Yeah, it was a good night. We were super quick. Just Jorge did Jorge things race 1. Just decided to start racing me for 5th for no good reason. Just so pointless. Screwed me over, swerved at me, and then we wrecked. Just so, I don't understand it, but Race 2, we had really good pace. So I got to like 4th or 5th, and then we had a big gap to the lead pack, but they started racing, and me and Jordan pushed up and caught them. Did what I could, got to 2nd, and then I was 1x away from getting disqualified all race. So I had to sit back, be super safe, so I couldn't really battle Camden. So with all that happened, I'll take a P2.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great fight back through the field, and to get to where you were at that point, and it certainly looked like you had the pace, and really cool to see you come back through there, and didn't realize that you were that close to a potential penalty of that nature. So
scarily close.
Yeah, so I mean, you played it beautifully. Better to take 2nd than to get DQ'd, man.
Yeah.
So, great drive, and
Thank you.
You're right. You were just fast, and I can't wait to see what you do the rest of the year, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, Livy. I appreciate your time.
Yep. See ya.
And on top of the board in race number 2, it was Camden Hibbett in 2nd place in race 1. Camden, and Morgan said a couple times he's seen you drive mad, and he liked what he saw tonight up to the lead, and you win this race by about a half a second. Take us through your evening, because it was a lot of fun to watch you slicing and dicing there with Morgan and Olivier and Nicholas, and tonight the gloves came off a little bit too.
Yeah, I didn't hear what Morgan said, but the gloves came off and I was driving mad. I think he described it perfectly. We've been racing hard all season, and the aggression level needed to come up if I wanted to win the race. I couldn't get under him. I couldn't go around the outside. I'm gonna be honest. I tried moving him into one. He didn't move. I didn't know what else to do. I was kind of stuck behind him. And honestly, my goal was to get Nick and everybody else involved, because that gave me the best shot of getting Morgan out of place, I guess. Getting him out of his rhythm a little bit by bringing in a couple other cars, and I think I was just managed the traffic a little bit better, and was somehow able to. I think he had a slowdown also, which definitely helped my cause, but. It was very aggressive racing tonight, one of the most fun races I've had in the series, and maybe even on iRacing before. It was a really fun second race tonight.
It was awesome to watch, awesome to call. In this moment we're watching right now, when you guys were 3 abreast up into turn 6, when in the real world does that ever, play out? And even in sim racing, and you guys made it work. But that was it was a great moment for you, because you were able to stay with it a little bit. But one of the things Morgan said, Ken, was he said he spent a good part of the first half of that race trying to piss you off, and he said, because I've only seen him really drive mad a couple of times, and he said I liked what I saw. He admitted that he didn't have the pace to break away, and so he was just trying to frustrate you.
He definitely did. I'll say it. He definitely did. No, I was driving mad. I mean, we've had these hard battles, and I've at some point I'm gonna race the way that we're racing in this series, and I feel like tonight was a step above what we kind of have done in the past, both of us. And honestly, I don't know if there will be steward involvement or not. Honestly, I don't think there will be, and I don't really have an opinion on it. I think it was really good, clean, hard racing, and it obviously made for a great show for the broadcast. And yeah, the gloves came off. I think definitely closed up the points a little bit with him finishing 3rd tonight. Yeah. I think he's still leading, but brought myself back into a little bit, and it was a good night overall for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And Morgan, by the way, said the same thing. He said that hard-nosed racing and that little touch in the corkscrew, he said, that's great stuff. I love that. Yeah. And that was just fun. So
absolutely.
He's with you on that one. And as always, man, you got up on the wheel a bit. You found a way to win. Well played. And you were raving about Andrew with that podium last week, Gilliland. How about dead last to 12th in this one? Just thought
that's a great run. I haven't checked in on him for tonight, but that's awesome to hear. He's been making a lot of progress, and it's been really cool to watch him develop.
It sure has.
It's awesome.
It sure has.
Thanks, Camden.
It's a joy to watch you run, bud. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Well, with that, Greg, final thoughts here on WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, because boy, it was a fun night, and we saw lots of hard racing, and the gloves come off, and we even heard a little bit more disagreements happening on course, but that's what it's all about.
Well, in a word, damn. That was so much fun and so intense. Was absolutely great, and that's what we love to see. And then both of the guys, up at the sharp end, a little rubbing and all that, we're saying, that was just great stuff, and everything. That's pretty cool, and enjoying it a bunch. And I see Apollo has found his spot as well. Just want to remind everybody, next Tuesday night is Sebring International Raceway, and that's the full course. And if you are looking for a little bit of extra time on that track, this Thursday, 2 nights from now, is a group practice at Sebring International on that full course. So you want to sharpen your skills there. Great opportunity for you to do that. And so keep that one in mind. And with that, it's going to wrap things up here. Again, have to say a massive thank you, of course, to Court Schmidt, Full Send Sims, for everything that they and he does here. And just amazing stuff. And, of course, also huge thank you to Farah for coming on board here. And a big thank you as well to Final Turn Motorsports. Rob Greenwood, since the very first race 2 years ago, been right in it and supporting this, as has Frank Rodriguez at 3P Logistics. And also Wine Country Motorsports, big supporter coming in midway through last season. Again, just want to remind everybody, Sebring coming up next as we head back from our West Coast swing back into the heat of Florida. That should be fantastic. What a joy to have run at Willow Springs and WeatherTech Raceway, 2 new venues here, and what racing we saw at both of them. It's been a joy to have you all join us here, and really appreciate you tuning in. And again, for Kyle Heyer and for Finian Dicuna, who once again, just brilliant stuff with our cameras and getting these shots all laid up. I'm Greg Creamer. Thanks so much. We will see you in a week's time from the legendary Sebring International Raceway.